Hi, friends. Oh, it's getting so close to Christmas time. So we have a few days of school this week, so you'll see me a couple times. And then maybe we can talk on Zoom together. And then it's going to be Christmas time. So I have my Christmas tree. It looks pretty nice. And there's a little bit of snow that was on my car this morning, so I know that winter time is here. Let's start with our hello song, and then I'm going to give you some clues about an animal that I brought today. Not a real animal, but a stuffed animal. Hello, everybody. How do you do? How do you do? How do you do? Hello, everybody. How do you do? God loves you today. Okay, my animal for today. This is an animal that would live at the North Pole. So if we look at a model of our world, or we maybe look at a globe, the North Pole is at the very tippy top and the South Pole is at the bottom. So this is an animal that would live at the North Pole. This animal, if it was standing on its hind legs, its back legs, it would be 10 feet tall. 10 feet tall is almost to the top of your ceiling. So that's a pretty big animal. This is an animal that can go in the water and uses paws for paddling. So we know a duck would have feet that can waddle and feet that are webbed for swimming. This animal does not have webbed feet, but big paws. And this animal can kind of pull himself through the water with those big paws, almost like how you would swim. That's how this animal swims. The baby of this animal would be called a cub. And this animal has fat underneath his skin, and the fat is called blubber. And the blubber keeps the animal warm because the North Pole is very cold. So this animal stays warm because God put this layer of fat right under their skin. And if they dive into cold water, they still stay warm. That's pretty great. If I was going to dive into cold water, I would have to maybe wear a wetsuit and put something all over my whole body that would keep me warm. This animal also has white fur and black skin. So the black skin, that sometimes helps absorb sunshine and warmth. So if you were wearing black clothes on a sunny day, you might feel a little warmer than if you had on white clothes. So this animal has black skin underneath the white fur. Actually, his fur is kind of see-through, but when we look at it, it looks white. All right, are you ready to see what it is? Do you think you already know? Okay, here we go. Did you guess that it could be a polar bear? Here's a picture of a real polar bear. This one looks pretty close, doesn't it? This one has a bow. I don't think the real polar bear would have a bow. This one also is holding a star. I don't think a real polar bear would do that either. So I have a story today about this polar bear. And this polar bear is living at the North Pole and, in fact, lives very close to Santa's workshop on the North Pole. All right, I'm going to put him down so I can show you my book. And my story is called The Christmas Wreath. Ooh, can you already see the polar bear and this wreath that looks like a necklace? Ooh, let's see how that works. The Christmas Wreath. The elves' work was done for the year, and they were tired. They were too tired to even put up their own Christmas tree. They knew Santa would be disappointed when he returned, but they barely had enough energy to finish the last sleigh load of toys. Oh, how about we just put up a wreath, said the chief elf. The truck-making elf just snored. The doll maker tucked a doll pillow under her head and sighed. The other elves blinked and shrugged. The last few nights they had even made toys in their dreams. Ooh, they're very busy to get ready for Christmas. Chief Elf gathered his last bit of energy to make a wreath from scraps of workshop materials. Pine boughs, a berry or two, and a leftover candy cane. Even the wreath looked tired. As he hung the wreath on the workshop door, Chief Elf said to himself, "Oh, well, it's the thought that counts." Look at how beautiful this workshop is. Late that night, a hungry polar bear smelled the pine boughs and peppermint and thought of food. She followed the scent to the door where the wreath was hanging. As the polar bear rose up on her hind legs to take the candy cane, she bumped the wreath. It fell off its hook and slipped over her head. Remember, one of my clues for polar bears said when they're standing on their hind legs, they can almost be 10 feet tall. Now, here's what happened with the polar bear. The whole polar bear was right by that wreath, and the polar bear was stretching up to get a little piece of candy cane, and then the wreath fell off and landed right on the polar bear like a necklace. Let's see if he can get it off. I don't think so. Oh boy. Okay, let's see what happens in this book. A very surprised polar bear now wore a wreath necklace. She tried to get it off, but the more she wiggled and shook, the tighter it became. Perhaps, she thought, it would come off in her world of ice and water. She lumbered across the ice and dove into the bottom of the bay, through the golden kelp and the glistening seaweed. Still, the wreath did not come off. Instead, strands of seaweed and sea flowers and even some small silverfish got tangled in the wreath. Now, this water would be very cold, but that polar bear has that layer of blubber that keeps his body warm. Each time, it's a girl, keeps her warm. Each time she came out of the water to breathe, the Arctic air froze the water on the wreath. Layers of ice were added, trapping underwater sea life in each layer. So every time she poked her head up out of the water, all of the water on the wreath froze. Look at how icy it looks. Soon the polar bear grew tired. She climbed very slowly onto the icy shore to rest. In the moonlight, shafts of green and blue and silver and gold reflected off the wreath. The polar bear would have been very proud of her necklace if she knew how beautiful it was. So the moon is shining, and it looks like rays of light are coming off that wreath. She had to get it off. It was so heavy. She tried to catch it on jagged rocks. She tried to get it off on a fence post in the reindeer yard. Nothing worked. In desperation, she went back to the workshop door. She stretched up. She scratched the wreath against the door. And the hook that the chief elf had used caught the ice on the wreath, and the polar bear was free. The polar bear ran away. Do you see her? Rid of her icy necklace at last. Up above, Santa and his sleigh and reindeer were nearing home. Below, he saw dazzling rays of colors that shone like beacons to guide his way. Okay, do you see the workshop and all of those shiny lights? He looks at it and says, "Oh, that's the light to light my way home." As Santa and the reindeer got closer to the workshop, they stared in wonder at what they saw. On the workshop door was a wreath. It was wrapped in ice crystals. It was shimmering and glittering in the moonlight. The familiar jingle of reindeer bells woke up the elves. They were still a little sleepy as they stumbled out to greet Santa. They, too, were amazed to see the wondrous creation on their workshop door. The elves looked at each other in surprise when Santa said thank you to them for the beautiful wreath. Had they created a jewel-like Christmas wreath, an ice sculpture? How and when had they done that? Chief Elf stroked his beard. Oh, how had his tired wreath become so glorious, he wondered. he remembered putting out a scraggly little mess. He smiled as he gazed at the icy beauty, wondering about miracles and Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas. Now, if you remember, they hung up a wreath that was kind of plain. And then it was that polar bear who was reaching to get a candy cane, and the wreath slipped on his head. And then the polar bear dove in the water, and all of those beautiful sea life and seaweed got stuck in the wreath. And every time she came up for air, the water would freeze. So while she was doing this, the elves were sleeping. So they did not see that the polar bear had done this. And then she couldn't get it off. So she went back by the workroom door. Oh, and she got rid of that icy necklace. By the time she was done with it, it was so beautiful. The elves still did not see that happen. So when Santa said thank you to the elves, they had no idea how that wreath had gotten so beautiful. But you know, right? Because you heard the story. Okay, I have a little game for us to play, a little bit of patterning. So I have some tiny little polar bears and tiny little penguins and some snowflakes. So I thought we could do a little bit of patterning. So they stick to this tray because I put a little magnet on the back. All right, I'm going to start with penguin. And I think we should do a pattern that is penguin, polar bear, penguin, polar bear. All right, so penguin, polar bear, penguin, polar bear. What comes after every polar bear? Ooh, the penguin. All right, let's try it. Penguin, polar bear, penguin, polar bear, penguin, polar bear. Ooh, we did it. So then I look at my pattern, I can read my pattern, and I say my pattern out loud. So I say penguin, polar bear, penguin, polar bear, penguin, polar bear. All right, let me put those down. Now, instead of just penguin, polar bear, I'm going to add snowflake. So I'm going to say penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Ooh, I changed it a little bit. Before, when we said polar bear, penguin would be next. But now we have snowflake next. Penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Penguin, polar bear. What's next? Let's try it. Penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Ooh, you were right if you said snowflake. Let's see if I can squish them together and we can get one more. Penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Penguin. What comes after penguin? Polar bear. And what ends the pattern? Snowflake. All right, let's see if we can read it. Penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Penguin, polar bear, snowflake. Okay, I have one more. This time I'm going to do a double. Wait till you see how I do a double. I'm going to do penguin, penguin. Well, here we go. Penguin, penguin, polar bear, polar bear. Ooh, so instead of one penguin and one polar bear, I'm going to do a double. So let me try that again. Penguin, penguin, polar bear, polar bear. Okay, penguin, penguin, polar bear, polar bear. Penguin, penguin, polar bear, polar bear. All right, let's see if we can get one more set in our line of patterns. Okay, I need two penguins. And what comes after two penguins? Two polar bears. Ooh, I'm right to the edge of the tray. Well, that's a really long pattern. Let's see if we can read it. Penguin, penguin, polar bear, polar bear. Penguin, penguin, polar bear, polar bear. Penguin, penguin, polar bear, polar bear. Awesome. All right, you can be done with the video and I'll sing the goodbye song. But after the goodbye song, I'm going to put on a dancing song. So if you want to stay and watch and move around in your house to the dancing song, you can. Or if you think you're already tired of watching a video, then you can stop. So let's sing our goodbye song and then I'll play that song for you. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Goodbye, my friends, to you. God bless you everywhere you go, in all you say and do. Goodbye, 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 my friends, to you. God bless you everywhere you go, in all you say and do. All right, now if you're going to dance to this, it has a little bit of marching, a little bit of running, a little bit of rolling. So if you're going to do that in your house, you have to be very careful. I'm at school, and I only allow running in school if we're listening to a song. And sometimes we even have to run in place because it would be dangerous to run around. All right, so you're going to do some moving, and I'm going to make sure that I play the CD so you can hear it. So I'm going to stay here while you do your moving around. Are you ready? Okay, let me get my CD player up here so you can hear it.
Let's pretend we're outdoors and it's cold and there's snow on the ground. Let's start marching.
Oh, can you march?
We're marching in the snow. We're marching in the snow. Hi-ho, the wind will blow. We're marching in the snow.
Oh, stop.
Now let's do some skating.
Oh, skating, you have to slide.
Slide your feet on the floor. If you're good at it, you might add a little spin right at the end. We're skating in the snow.
Kind of slow.
We're skating in the snow. Hi-ho, the wind will blow. We're skating in the snow.
Stop. Here we go.
Let's run, but be careful. Don't fall down and don't bump into someone else.
I'm gonna run
We're running in the snow. We're running in the snow. Hi-ho, the wind will blow. We're running in the snow.
Stop.
Now lay down on the floor.
Lay down.
And roll over and over.
Roll on the floor.
Yeah, that's right. We're rolling in the snow. We're rolling in the snow. Keep going. Hi-ho, the wind will blow. We're rolling in the snow.
Stop.
Now stand up. Get up on your tippy toes. Here we go. We're tiptoeing in the snow. We're tiptoeing in the snow. Hi-ho, the wind will blow. We're tiptoeing in the snow.
All right, I'll see you again. Bye, friends. Have a good day today.